Good morning. Thank you for joining me today. This morning will be in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 1 through 49. Now, Israel, pay attention to the statutes and ordinances I am about to teach you, so that you might live and go on to enter and take possession of the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add a thing to what I command you, nor subtract from it, so that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God that I am delivering to you. You have witnessed what the Lord did at Baal Peor, how he eradicated from your midst everyone who followed Baal Peor. But you who remained faithful to the Lord, your God, are still alive to this very day, every one of you. Look, I have taught you statutes and ordinances, just as the Lord my God told me to do, so that you might carry them out in the land you are about to enter and possess. So be sure to do them, because this will testify of your wise understanding to the people, who will learn of all these statutes and say, Indeed, this great nation is a very wise people. In fact, what other great nation has a God so near to them, like the Lord our God, whenever we call on him? And what other great nation has statutes and ordinances as just as this whole law that I am about to share with you today? Again, however, pay very careful attention, lest you forget the things you have seen and disregard them for the rest of your life. Instead, teach them to your children and grandchildren. You stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, and he said to me, Assemble the people before me, so that I can tell them my commands. Then they will learn to revere me all the days they live in the land, and they will instruct their children. You approached and stood at the foot of the mountain, a mountain ablaze to the sky above it, and yet dark with a thick cloud. Then the Lord spoke to you from the middle of the fire. You heard speech, but you could not see anything, only a voice was heard. And he revealed to you the covenant he has commanded you to keep, the 10 Commandments, writing them on 2 stone tablets. Moreover, at that same time, the Lord commanded me to teach you statutes and ordinances for you to keep in the land which you are about to enter and possess. Be very careful then, because you saw no form at the time the Lord spoke to you at Horeb from the middle of the fire. I say this so you will not corrupt yourselves by making an image in the form of any kind of figure. This includes the likeness of a human male or female, any kind of land animal, any bird that flies in the sky, anything that crawls on the ground, or any fish in the deep waters of the earth. When you look up to the sky and see the sun, moon, and stars, the whole heavenly creation, you must not be seduced to worship and serve them, for the Lord your God has assigned them to all the people of the world. You, however, the Lord has selected and brought from Egypt, that iron-smelting furnace, to be his special people, as you are today. But the Lord became angry with me because of you, and vowed that I would never cross the Jordan, nor enter the good land that he is about to give you. So I must die here in this land. I will not cross the Jordan, but you are going over and will possess that good land. Be on guard, so that you do not forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he has made with you, and that you do not make an image of any kind, just as he has forbidden you. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire. He is a jealous God. After you have produced children and grandchildren, and have been in the land a long time, if you become corrupt and make an image of any kind, and do other evil things before the Lord your God that enrage him, I invoke heaven and earth as witness against you today, that you will surely and swiftly be removed from the very land you are about to cross the Jordan to possess. You will not last long there, because you will surely be annihilated. Then the Lord will scatter you among the peoples, and there will be very few of you among the nations where the Lord will drive you. There you will worship gods made by human hands, wood and stone that can neither see, hear, eat, nor smell. But if you seek the Lord your God from there, you will find him, if indeed you seek him with all your heart and soul. In your distress, when all these things happen to you in the latter days, if you return to the Lord your God and obey him, for he is a merciful God, he will not let you down or destroy you, for he cannot forget the covenant with your ancestors that he confirmed by oath to them. Indeed, ask about the distant past, starting from the day God created humankind on the earth, and ask from one end of heaven to the other, whether there has ever been such a great thing as this, or even a rumor of it. Have a people ever heard the voice of God speaking from the middle of fire, as you yourselves have and lived to tell about it? Or has God ever before tried to deliver a nation from the middle of another nation, accompanied by judgments, signs, wonders, war, strength, power, and other very terrifying things, like the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? You have been taught that the Lord alone is God. There is no other besides him. From heaven he spoke to you in order to teach you, and on earth he showed you his great fire, from which you also heard his words. Moreover, because he loved your ancestors, he chose their descendants who followed them, and personally brought you out of Egypt with his great power, to dispossess nations greater and stronger than you, and brought you here this day to give you their land as your property. Today realize and carefully consider that the Lord is God in heaven above and on earth below. There is no other. Keep his statutes and commandments that I am setting forth today, so that it may go well with you and your descendants, and that you may enjoy longevity in the land that the Lord your God is about to give you as a permanent possession. Then Moses selected 3 cities in the Transjordan toward the east. Anyone who accidentally killed someone without hating him at the time of the accident could flee to one of those cities and be safe. These cities are Bezer in the desert plateau for the Reubenites, Ramoth and Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan and Bashan for the Manassites. This is the law that Moses set before the Israelites. These are the stipulations, statutes, and ordinances that Moses spoke to the Israelites after he had brought them out of Egypt. In the Transjordan, in the valley opposite Beth Peor, in the land of King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon. It is he whom Moses and the Israelites attacked after they came out of Egypt. They possessed his land and that of King Og of Bashan, both of whom were Amorite kings in the Transjordan to the east. Their territory extended from Aroer at the edge of the Arnon Valley as far as Mount Sion, that is, Hermon, including all the Arabah of the Transjordan in the east to the sea of the Arabah, beneath the watershed of Pisgah. So, Israel is about to enter the Promised Land, and Moses is delivering this sermon to them. And one of, I think the big things is him saying, inquire anywhere around you about what's happened to you. Has God ever spoken from the fire to a people? Has he ever delivered a nation that was inside of another nation by miraculous signs and wonders? And given that that's never happened before, you should probably pay attention to what's being said here, especially given the consequences for, like, just turning your back on it, like going over and worshiping Baal Peor. God was displeased with Israel worshiping Baal Peor, and everyone who did so was destroyed from the midst of Israel. And rightly so, given how much they were depending on God's providence to even live, eating the very manna from heaven at the time. Deuteronomy 4:35. You have been taught that the Lord alone is God. There is no other besides him. It's been a while, but I recall reading a Wikipedia article or something to that effect that said that Israel was polytheist up until the time of, like, Nehemiah or so, post-exile. And it's then that there was a thrust towards moving towards God. And in one sense I agree, and in one sense I don't agree. I think their theology, this theology, was completely monotheistic, and very clear in its monotheism directed towards Yahweh. You have been taught that the Lord alone is God. There is no other besides him. And They've also been taught not to share God's glory with another. Yeah. So, but the sense that I agree in is that during this time, while they're receiving this command from God, they're still engaging in paganism, essentially, and worshiping like Moloch and other pagan gods of that nature. So, yeah, carrying on. Luke chapter 6, verse 39 through 7, verse 10. He also told them a parable. Jesus told them a parable. Someone who is blind cannot lead another who is blind, can he? Won't they both fall into a pit? A disciple is not greater than his teacher, but everyone, when fully trained, will be like his teacher. Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to see the beam of wood in your own? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, while you yourself don't see the beam in your own, you hypocrite? First remove the beam from your own eye, and then you can see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. For no good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit, for each tree is known by its own fruit. For figs are not gathered from thorns, nor are grapes picked from brambles. The good person, out of the good treasury of his heart, produces good, and the evil person, out of his evil treasury, produces evil, for his mouth speaks from what fills his heart. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and don't do what I tell you? Everyone who comes to me and listens to my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on bedrock. When a flood came, the river burst against the house but could not shake it, because it has been well built. But the person who hears and does not put my words into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. When the river burst against that house, it collapsed immediately and was utterly destroyed. After Jesus had finished teaching all this to the people, he entered Capernaum. A centurion there had a slave who was highly regarded, but who was sick and at the point of death. When the centurion heard about Jesus, he sent some Jewish elders to him, asking him to come and heal his slave. When they came to Jesus, they urged him earnestly, "He is worthy to have you do this for him, because he loves our nation, and even built our synagogue." So Jesus went with them. When he was not far from this house, the centurion sent friends to say to him, "Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. That is why I did not presume to come to you. Instead, say the word, and my servant must be healed. For I too am a man set under authority, with soldiers under me. I say to this one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my slave, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed at him. He turned and said to the crowd that followed him, "I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith." So when those who had been sent returned to the house, they found the slave well. Yeah. Luke 6:41 and 42. Why do you see the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to see the beam of wood in your own? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, while you yourself don't see the beam in your own? You hypocrite! First remove the beam from your own eye, and then you can see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So what this is clearly saying is that we shouldn't be judgmental and pick out specks from each other's eyes. No. What does it say? You hypocrite, first remove the beam from your own eye, and then you can see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Yeah, that is, it's not a judgment against, it's not admonishing us to not try to improve each other, but simply to look at our own lives first and see the the bad stuff that we're doing, the very obvious bad stuff, the beam in our own eye, and remove that. Likewise, Luke 6:46, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and don't do what I tell you? This isn't some proclamation not to call Jesus Lord, Lord, but what does he go on to say? Everyone who comes to me and listens to my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what he is like, versus the person who who hears and does not put my words into practice. The one who does hear and put his words into practice is like somebody who builds a house on a strong foundation. However, the one who doesn't put his words into practice is like one who builds a house without a foundation that's immediately swept away when any sort of storm comes. So, as Moses was warning Israel to pay careful attention to what God says and to put it into practice, so too Jesus here in Luke 6:46 is admonishing the people to listen carefully and to put his words into practice. And I think the centurion demonstrates that well in that he realizes that Jesus is acting under authority, and whose authority is he acting under? And God's. And thus, given that, God can do anything. So, rightly recognizing this, he says, you can just say the word and have my slave be healed. Carrying on, Psalm 68, verses 1 through 18. God springs into action. His enemies scatter. His adversaries run from him. A smoke is driven away by the wind, so you drive them away. As smoke is driven away by the wind, so you drive them away. As wax melts before fire, so the wicked are destroyed before God, but the godly are happy. They rejoice before God and are overcome with joy. Sing to God, sing praises to his name. Exalt the one who rides on the clouds, for the Lord is his name. Rejoice before him. He is a father to the fatherless and an advocate for widows. God rules from his holy palace. God settles those who have been deserted in their own homes. He frees prisoners and grants them prosperity, but sinful rebels live in the desert. O God, when you lead your people into battle, when you march through the desert. Selah. The earth shakes, yes, the heavens pour down rain before God, the God of Sinai, before God, the God of Israel. O God, you cause abundant showers to fall on your chosen people. When they are tired, you sustain them, for you live among them. You sustain the oppressed with your good blessings, O God. The Lord speaks. Many, many women spread the good news. Kings leading armies run away. They run away. The lovely lady of the house divides up the loot. When you lie down among the sheepfolds, the wings of the dove are covered with silver and with glittering gold. When the sovereign judge scatters kings, let it snow on Zalman. The mountain of Bashan is a towering mountain. The mountain of Bashan is a mountain with many peaks. Why do you look with envy, O mountain? O mountains with many peaks, at the mountain where God has decided to live. Indeed, the Lord will live there permanently. God has chosen chariots. They number in the thousands. The Lord comes from Sinai in holy splendor. You ascend on high. You have taken many captives. You receive tribute from men, including even sinful rebels. Indeed, the Lord God lives there. Interesting. That last verse there, you ascend on high, you have taken many captives, is used in the New Testament. That is, how can God ascend on high without first descending? And it's used as further ammunition for the fact that God came to earth in human form. Carrying on, Proverbs 11, verse 28. The one who trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like a green leaf. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a very good day. Bye.